welcome to the March 21st meeting of the Joint Town Council, Parking Authority, and Redevelopment Agency of the Town of Los Gatos. I'd ask that, first of all, you turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate so that we do not get disturbed in the course of the meeting, and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Stephen Leonardis.
Here.
Councilmember Barbara Spector.
Here.
Councilmember Diane McNutt.
Here.
Vice Mayor Steve Rice.
Here.
Mayor and Chair Joe Brzezinski.
Here. Again tonight, we are fortunate to have one of our future leaders in the audience with us. She's going to lead us in the pledge. I'd like to introduce her to you. Her name is Erin Hughes. She's a Los Gatos Youth Commissioner. She's also a 10th grade student at Presentation High School. Go Panthers. She has many leadership activities she's been involved with. She is as I said, Los Gatos Youth Commissioner. She's a member of the Leadership Academy for 2 years and a Presentation Ambassadors Club for 2 years. She was a Mission Drive representative for 1 year, and this group is designed to raise money to help people in need. She was class leader for this group. She's been involved in many community service activities as well. Community Involvement Club for 2 years, Urban Plunge, and this was an experience designed to help others begin to gain an understanding of what it's like to be homeless. This is really interesting. As a freshman at Prez, Erin spent a day living on the streets in downtown San Jose with only $1 to buy lunch. And I'm sure that she has many experiences to share with us in that regard. And she was on the Venture Crew for a year. This is a youth development program of the Boy Scouts of America, which teaches outdoor survival skills, which I'm sure came in handy when she spent that day on the streets. She's a member of International Thespian Society for 2 years and has been in 5 plays of presentation. She plays field hockey. She's on the varsity team. She's on club. She's on the U.S. Hockey Association Future Development Program. She loves to travel, and she's traveled internationally on a regular basis. And other interesting facts that we should share about Erin. She's a black belt in Taekwondo, and she was born in London and has dual citizenship, and she lived there for 7 years. That's all I can tell you about Erin at this time. So I'd like to ask Erin Hughes to come forward to lead us in the pledge. And would everyone know, please rise.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's thank Erin. She knows her routine. Erin, here you go.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Okay. And one more time, let's thank Erin for Before we call the meeting to order, the council interviewed a candidate for a position on the library board. And I would ask Madam Clerk to let us know how the process goes and lead us in the vote.
Good evening. Tonight I'll be announcing the library board, announcing the applicant, and asking council to vote by a show of hands. So with no further ado, we have Tom Atkinson for the library board. May I get a show of hands? Okay, it's 4 and...
Abstain.
I was abstaining. Tom Atkinson will be appointed to the library board. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Tom. Is he still in the audience? I think he probably felt he had a pretty good shot at this thing tonight. All right. The next thing we want to do is make a presentation, and I'm going to ask Parthenia Hicks, our Los Gatos Poet Laureate, to join me at the podium. to see you again.
Good to see you.
Yeah, if you don't want to say some things about it. All right. As you know, Parthenia came to us last year as our first poet laureate. First poet laureate? Correct.
First official.
First official poet laureate. And at that time, we were just looking forward to our library beginning to become an extraordinary gathering place for our community. And if you've been watching the library's progress, you should be as proud as we at the direction this is taking. Now, I'm going to declare that April is the National Poetry Month, and I'm going to ask Parthenia to accept on our behalf this proclamation that I'm going to read, and it's a proclamation that recognizes her as our Poet Laureate and April as our National Poetry Month. So, the proclamation reads as such. Whereas the National Poetry Month seeks to highlight the extraordinary legacy and ongoing achievement of poets, introduce people to the pleasures and benefits of reading poetry, brings poets and poetry to the public in immediate and innovative ways, and makes poetry an important part of our children's lives. And whereas the town of Los Gatos has appointed a town poet laureate who in turn has established the Poetry Los Gatos movement, and whereas the Poet Laureate and Poetry Los Gatos are engaged in efforts to make poetry an essential part of the arts and humanities in Los Gatos, affecting every aspect of life in Los Gatos, including education, the economy, and community pride and development. And whereas the town of Los Gatos, through the Los Gatos Public Library, has established a permanent web page dedicated to introducing people to the poetry and activities of the town poet laureate. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Joe Brzezinski, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the town of Los Gatos, do deem it appropriate and do hereby proclaim the month of April 2011 to be National Poetry Month within the town of Los Gatos, and call upon all citizens to make poetry a part of their daily life in Los Gatos. Proclaim the 21st day of March 2011 in the town of Los Gatos, county of Santa Clara, state of California. Congratulations. Now, I asked our poet laureate if she'd say a few words, and in particular, highlight those things that are going to occur during the month of April. So, Parthenia.
Thank you. I would really like to jump up and down and yell and scream, but I am trying to maintain some dignity in the room. On behalf of Poetry Los Gatos, we'd like to thank our mayor and town council for proclaiming April as National Poetry Month in the town of Los Gatos. Thank you very much. And I'd like to let you know some of the key events that we will be holding in our town in April. We're starting right out with the Word Sleuth program on KCAT. We will have students from the Fisher School reading poetry, and it will be filmed and run through April and through May. Following that, on April 7th, we have an evening of art, poetry, and music that will take place in the Adult Recreation Center. This is an evening to view and celebrate the work of Los Gatos artists, followed by a reading from Poetry Los Gatos. On April 19th, here in the council chambers, we have poetry and the art of Kate Curry. Poetry Los Gatos will read poems inspired by Kate Curry's work, and Kate Curry will follow that with a discussion and reaction to the poetry. And then most exciting of all, or one of the most exciting events, and I encourage every one of you to please show up for this, step outside of your comfort level and show up at the Great Bear on April 26th, where we have a community open mic. You don't have to be a writer, you don't have to be a poet. Find a poem that you love and come and read it. And let's have some fun together with poetry. Invite everyone you know. We want this to be a wonderful town event. If you would like to find out more about this, you can go to the new website, losgatoscalifornia.gov poetry. Thank you very much. And also on the Los Gatos Poet Laureate Facebook page, I'll be posting a poem a day for the entire month of April. And then there will also be a few surprises, so stay tuned. And once again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Virginia. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Obviously, this sounds like April's going to be an exciting month for poetry, and I'm particularly interested in that open mic at the Great Bear. I'd like to see a lot of people come out, and maybe council can even consider choosing one. Mr. Rice? Okay. Next item on the agenda is our closed session report. Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. The council met in closed session tonight. They took no action, and there is no report.
Thank you very much. Now, just a reminder, if you intend to speak on any topic tonight, either on the two public hearings we've got or for verbal communication, those beige cards, buff cards sitting in front of you should be filled out. And if you would take that to our clerk, to my left, to your right, that would be great, and we'll be able to afford you the opportunity to speak to us tonight. Our next item is council and manager reports, okay? And the first is council matters. I'd ask that you pay attention to an opportunity we've got to sign up for a particular service that is now available through our county emergency preparedness organization. It's something that I've done already. It's very simple. Just go online to www.alertscc.org, alertscc.org, as you see on the screen, and you will be affording yourself and your family the opportunity to receive immediate information regarding disasters and emergencies that occur in our region. And this is really important, and I would really like, as part of this year's emphasis on Safe at Home, that everyone in our audience tonight, everyone in our television audience, take this down and do it before we forget. And I'd ask you also then to ask your neighbors if they have or would be interested in making this contact. This gets you a wealth of information, and if you've noticed what's happened recently in Japan, one of the things that's most needed by people who are in the midst of a disaster or the victims of a disaster is the need for information. What's going on? Where can I go for help? Will there be help available? When does this thing start to become more cohesive so that we actually can see the light at the end of the tunnel? And this is an opportunity for us to make sure that we have that form of communication available to us. They recommend, obviously, that we all have a radio, a portable radio of some kind that is battery operated, because if power goes out, you want to pay attention to what's happening. So a very important tool, again, www.alertscc.org. And I'd like kind of an internal promise for everybody in the audience and everyone at home. We're going to do it, we're going to sign up, and then we're going to talk to our friends and neighbors and make sure everyone in Los Gatos is going to be on top of this. We're going to keep giving these regular pieces of information as we go through the year for things that we can do immediately to help ourselves be readily available for the assistance needed in the next major emergency that we know is inevitable. We know it's going to come. All right, that's my council meeting. Any other council member interested in presenting during this point of time? Then I'm going to turn it over to the manager.
Great. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, 3 items for you this evening. First, the ongoing storm this week is requiring a considerable amount of your staff's attention. We had to call 4 Public Works employees in during the heavy winds and rain on Saturday night to deal with flooding in the hillside areas of Kennedy Road and to keep the storm drains clear in central Los Gatos. In addition, a large tree fell down on Cypress near Phillips, damaging the roadway, but it is open now for interim use. And along with our noticing to the public, wanted to remind the public that sandbags are available for residents and businesses in the Balzer Field parking lot on Miles Avenue. Second, the first community outreach meeting on the North 40 specific plan is scheduled for Saturday, April 2nd from 10 a.m. to 12 noon at Calvary Church. Last, in consultation with the mayor, I wanted to announce that we will not be bringing forward further action on the Ditto's Lane project pending final state action on redevelopment and affordable housing, which may not occur until June. In addition, this will allow the applicant and staff time to consider and respond to comments raised by the Public and Planning Commission. Further council consideration and action will be fully noticed as required by law. That concludes staff report tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Appreciate that. All right, the next item on our agenda is our consent calendar. And this is
Before we move to consent.
all right. Do you have more to tell us?
I don't. But we're blessed to have Jill Logar from the Friends and Community Campaign for this night's Did You Know? Jill?
Let's see, I think it's on. Did you know? The Friends of the Los Gatos Public Library Once in a Generation campaign are joining with the community to raise the needed funds to equip the new 30,000 square foot library for learning, comfort, and enjoyment. And the new library is scheduled to be open early 2012. As part of the community-wide effort, the Friends of the Los Gatos Library are raising $2.1 million through the Capital Development Program, and we're excited to say that $1.2 million has already been raised. The Once in a Generation campaign will launch on Sunday, April 3rd from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the Civic Center lawn, and we're excited to have an astronaut come and celebrate that launch with us. He's former astronaut from NASA, Edward T. Liu. Our upcoming other events are a Friday forum, which will kind of give us a futuristic outlook, and that will be with astronomy professor Andrew Fracknoy on April 8th. And we ask everyone to plan to attend any of our numerous upcoming events to learn more about opportunities and ways they can participate in our campaign, provide financial support, attend library events. It's now, it's new, it's ours. And the Friends are asking for donations for the community to help the town realize its dream for a beautiful new state-of-the-art library. Donations of all sizes are needed to reach our goal. For more information on how to become involved and details on special gift opportunities, visit us at www.friendsoflglibrary.org or email us at info@friendsoflglibrary.org today. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our manager matters. And again, this is an exciting opportunity for us. It was going to happen this weekend, but because of the rain, wisely, this has been put off now until the beginning of April. And I've been invited to introduce the astronaut, and I'm very, very interested in doing that. And again, this is a great program, and invite everyone in the community to participate. And thank you again for presenting. Now, without further ado, the consent calendar. And this is an opportunity for the council to approve a number of items without individual hearings. Is there a individual on council who would like to pull an item from consent? Yes, Ms. McNutt.
Mayor, I don't think I need to pull item number 3. I just had a clarifying question of staff,
Please.
if I might. Although it doesn't explicitly say so in the staff report, based on previous discussions, it's implicit that the signage on these electric vehicle charging stations will be very clear that they are not limited to electric vehicles, but are open spaces for all types of vehicles. Is that correct?
Correct. That is our plan. Any change would require council action when we come back to you in the future.
That's all I needed.
Thank you. Any other individual want to make a comment to or pull an item? Anyone in the audience wish to pull an item from consent? Seeing none, then I'm going to ask for a motion. Yes.
I'll move for consent of items 1 through 5.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent items 1 through 5. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
And I am abstaining from number 4.
And because you were not present. Absolutely. So Councilwoman Spector is going to be indicated in the minutes as abstaining from item 4. All right, that brings us to verbal communication. This is an opportunity for anyone in our public to speak to the council about an item that is not on tonight's agenda. And again, hopefully, if you've not yet done so, you will fill out one of these buff cards. We have 2 individuals who would like to speak to this item. And again, if you're interested in speaking verbal communication, then please fill out a card and bring it to our clerk. And just for your information, since these are not agendized items, we can't really have extended discussion of them. So the first speaker will be Chris Beavis. Mr. Beavis, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Chris Beavis, 81 College Avenue. I'm here tonight to urge you not to renew the exclusive contract with Rome Development to develop 20 Dittos Lane when it expires on March 31st. Extending this exclusivity would limit the town's options going forward and have little or no benefit to the town. The grossly inadequate EIR that Rome and the town staff submitted was roundly rejected by the Planning Commission, which found that the report was in no way an accurate reflection of the real and significant impacts of this project on the town. Rome, in refusing to consider mitigation of the impact by bringing the project in line with the town's general plan, has shown that it's willing to compromise our safety, compromise our environment, compromise our historic small-town character, and compromise the health of the downtown area. The only thing they refuse to compromise on are density and profitability. Rome is not an appropriate developer for this site. I've also been in communication with Habitat for Humanity Silicon Valley. They indicated that while they would not inject themselves into a situation where there's an active proposal under consideration, they would be very interested in working with the town to develop this site for affordable housing. I've surveyed my neighbors in the College Hill neighborhood and believe that we could have a crew of about 30 or 40 volunteers to participate in the Habitat project there. So by extending the Rome exclusivity, you would preclude the possibility of finding a much better solution which would have community support and which we would all be very proud of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Beavis. Any questions for Mr. Beavis? The next speaker is Joanne Bosomworth. Joanne? There she is.
Good evening. My name is Joanne Bosomworth. I live at 303 Willow Hill Court in Los Gatos and part of the Charter Oaks Townhouse community. I'm here as past president of the board of directors of Charter Oaks. Charter Oaks, you may recognize as being located off of Lark Avenue along the Los Gatos Creek Trail. I am here also as a spokesperson for 40 residents at Charter Oaks who have signed a petition requesting the town of Los Gatos to investigate a safer traffic pattern at the corner of Lark Avenue and Charter Oaks Drive. I'm joined here tonight by several of the residents in support of this proposal. Thank you. And although it's not on the agenda this evening, we are going to be on the agenda next meeting on the April 4th. So this is sort of an introduction to our request. We began this request last summer, and I have been in communication with several of the town personnel, including Mr. Larson and Steve Walpole and Jesse Pooh and Greg Larson and Joe Przinski. And thank you for your interest. This is not the first time that Charter Oaks has approached the Town Council asking for a safer traffic pattern. Over the years, as you know, there's been a large increase of traffic along Lark Avenue, and also there are 101 families in Charter Oaks who have the only way of getting out of Charter Oaks as an egress into Lark Avenue. We have no other way of getting out of Charter Oaks. Also, we also have a number of cars who use Charter Oaks as a parking lot for access to the Los Gatos Creek Trail. So we have many more cars coming in and out of Charter Oaks Drive. There's been a number of accidents over the years. I can name 3 that involve Charter Oaks residents over the last year or so. The latest one being last Wednesday afternoon when one of my neighbors was attempting a left-hand turn from Charter Oaks onto Lark Avenue and unfortunately was hit by a westbound vehicle. No injuries, but basically she's in shock and her car has been totaled. We're very pleased to know that there's going to be a traffic study, including University, Lark, and Charter Oaks. However, we would not like to be incorporated in a long-term study. We feel that this is a very crucial situation, and we would like immediate resolution. So we will return April 4th.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That concludes the cards I've got for verbal communication. Anyone else wish to speak at this time? Seeing none, then we're going to go on to our 2 public hearings of the night. The first hearing is item 6 on your agenda. This is consider request to allow outdoor seating, live entertainment, dance lessons. I think we excluded the dance lessons, and exterior modifications to Pedro's Restaurant. This is at 316 North Santa Cruz. And at this point in time, I'd ask the staff, that would be Jennifer Savage, to comment from staff's position.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. There is a desk item for this application, and the desk item contains a list of alcoholic beverage and entertainment uses in the Central Business District. On February 7th, 2011, the council considered this application. The council continued the matter to tonight to allow the applicant to address concerns regarding the frequency of live entertainment, meal service with alcoholic beverages, architecture, and security. The applicant submitted revised plans and a table of proposed business modifications. The revised plans show that the existing fireplace will remain, and there is no longer access proposed from the existing bar area to the proposed outdoor patio. The outdoor patio would be accessed from the entry courtyard. The plans include double-pane windows to address noise concerns and the bathroom remodel as part of the subject application. The applicant is proposing required meal service with alcoholic beverage service only for the proposed outdoor seating. The use of outdoor seating would cease at 9 p.m. 7 days a week. The standards for outdoor seating require that a restaurant employee seat patrons when alcoholic beverage service is permitted outside, and a hold harmless agreement. The establishment's existing CUP does not require meal service with alcoholic beverage service, and the applicant is proposing to maintain this use. The restaurant would close at 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday. The applicant's table shows that live music would occur 3 nights a week and comedy once a week. The applicant reduced the number of events from 6 to 4. The applicant is requesting extended hours of operation and live entertainment during those 4 events. If the council finds merit with the applicant's revised proposal, the council should revise the conditions for the CUP and the architecture and site application as noted in the staff report. This concludes staff presentation, and staff is available for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Savage. Any questions from council? Councilmember McNutt.
Thank you. Just one question at this time. On the, when do you want to do disclosures? Do you want to do them now?
Now would be a good time.
Because I have a special disclosure in that I did go back and view the council meeting because I missed the first one, so I'm all up to speed on the discussion that went on in the original hearing of this. And I also met with the applicant And I'll let you do the other disclosures before I continue with my question.
All right. Vice Mayor?
I met with the applicant after the first council meeting.
Okay. Councilwoman Spector?
I spoke with the applicant by phone after the last council meeting.
Councilmember Leonardis?
I also met with the applicant after the first council meeting.
And I too met with the applicants after the first council meeting, and that would be the extent of my contact since our last session. All right, Ms. McNutt.
Thank you. On the conditions of approval for the use, number 6, and this is a question that you're going to hear again later tonight, this idea of maximum occupancy, can you tell me two things? One, how does that differ between what fire marshal restriction has, and is this something that we have routinely had on restaurant and other types of applications? I don't remember it, but maybe my eyes just glossed over it in the past.
So the maximum occupancy is that maximum occupancy established by the fire and building codes. It has not typically been put on past applications. There are a couple out there. More recently, it's Los Gatos Bar and Grill at 15.5 North Santa Cruz. That particular one, maximum occupancy, was a concern because once you remove some of the seats for the dance floor, you increase your maximum occupancy. There's more room for people to stand. With this particular application, there is a proposal for the live bands, and the plans show a dancing floor area. So the occupancy could potentially increase when you remove the tables that were there previously, and there may be a concern for maximum occupancy in the establishment as a whole.
So if I could just clarify, so this number that's listed here, 296, will be the number that's wherever it is here? I'm sure we have it here. It's required by law. I'm sure it's here somewhere. It'll be the same as what's posted on the building by fire.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? I have a question, and this relates to the issue of architecture and site. And there were a number of items. This is on pages 5 and 6 of the staff report. And before, previously, there were some specific items called out: window and door treatment, patio railing, exterior modifications. In the staff's recommendation, those would be items 4, 5, and 6. They have been struck. Could you comment to that?
Those items have been removed because the revised plans show consistency with the existing architectural style, and in addition to that, they have specifically proposed railing to satisfy those requirements.
All right, and then if there are any changes that are occurring, will be approved then either at Community Development, DRC, Planning Commission, or here, depending on what it is that is being proposed.
Correct. Changes from what you're seeing tonight and may or may not approve
Okay.
would depend on the scope.
Thank you. Anyone else want to ask a question of staff at this point? Seeing none, then I'm going to ask the applicant to come forward. And just so you all know, this is a continuing public hearing, but because there are a number of changes that are proposed, I'm going to allow 10 minutes at the front end, but I'm sure you won't need that.
Correct.
And Mr. DiPietro and Mr. Anderson are the two who are at the microphone at this time, and I'd ask that you take this 10 minutes and divide it however you wish, but then you stay within this period of time. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Kurt Anderson, the architect, as you know. We'd like to take a brief moment and extend our appreciation to the staff and the members of the council for meeting with us, either in person or talking on the phone in regards to this application. As you recall, at the last council hearing, there was quite a bit of confusion on what we were actually requesting. So this allowed us to go back, massage the plans, make modifications accordingly, and we really, really appreciate all of your inputs and suggestions. We feel that we have incorporated that, and we feel that we actually have a much better solution now than we did at the last hearing. As part of what you saw in the plans, you've seen the matrix. I'm going to let Mike speak to that regarding operation. I want to talk about the architecture. One of the big concerns of the council last time was sound. So when we went back and modified these drawings, we realized that we want to do is eliminate the windows that were between the patio and the bar, save that fireplace, turn that into a two-sided fireplace, turn those double pane the windows that are into the courtyard, turn those into double pane windows, sound gasket that door to eliminate any sound seepage to the outside as much as possible. So we incorporate those things, and that is indicated in the plans. We've also included the bathroom renovation as part of this permit and this work, because as required by state law, we have to upgrade the accessibility issues as we do the work. So that's included. There wasn't much more of the modification to the architecture, except that we included the details, the windows along the side, the handrails, the wrought iron, the planter box around the patio, elimination of the walls at the entry, opening up more with more of the wrought iron gates. So we really feel we've come up with a very attractive solution to everybody's concerns. I don't have much more to add at this point, unless you've got some questions. I'll turn it over to Mike, and then we'll come back later and maybe save some time. We'll see.
That sounds good.
Where we're at. Okay?
Sure.
Thank you.
My name is Mike DiPietro, and I want to thank the town council also for meeting with us individually. I couldn't make some of the meetings, but you did speak to Kurt over the phone, and I appreciate your time and effort. We spent a lot of time since last meeting talking about the concerns of the council, our concerns, and the matrix that we came up with was very specific. I know last meeting there was a lot of discussion and a lot of confusion on our part, I think on your part, as far as what we were going to do. So we spent many hours on this matrix in regards to hours of operation, the schedule for the entertainment, the events, how we're going to handle security, the patio hours. What's not on here, but I think is included in the staff report, is we came up with, because I did it in the past, with a sound monitor, a way to actually monitor the sound with a decibel meter. We're willing to do that also, so that it's a set number. So not only that we can monitor that, if someone from the police department walks in and wants to check the sound out, he can look at that decibel meter anytime he or she wants, and the band and the sound has to stay within those parameters that we come up with. And that's about all for me right now. I know there'll be more questions, so I'll give the council more time for that. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes. Mr. Rice.
Thank you. My question revolves around the alcohol versus meal service. And first of all, I should thank you, because this packet is a lot more complete than when we saw this the first time. So a lot of the questions are answered. But when we met and we talked, one of the things that we talked about was the town currently requires, under our alcohol policy, the service of food, not just appetizers or snacks, but meals with alcohol. And I noticed your application came in with that only applying to the outside seats. Curious what happened.
I don't know that anything happened purposely. We've been serving food with alcohol in, like, for instance, the bar. You can sit at the bar and you're not required to have a full meal. You can have chips and salsa. That wasn't required, so we didn't think that we had to add that to the application. If that's something the town council wants, we don't necessarily have an issue with that whatsoever.
Great, thank you. That answers my question.
Any other questions? Councilmember Ragnat.
Thank you, Mayor. I have several questions.
Please.
Let's start with your hours. And you're in an unusual situation in that you were grandfathered in, so this is like your first real CUP since we started this process. And we have this great chart now that helps us compare all of the restaurants that serve alcohol in downtown. So currently, you have no hours of operation on a CUP. I understand that what you're doing on the matrix is probably telling us the hours that you intend to operate. But I am afraid that you are limiting yourself too much by this, because I want to make sure you understand that if we say we take your matrix as the hours of operation, it's a beautiful summer night, people are eating later, they're not arriving at your restaurant until 8, and you still are closing at 9. It's a holiday, and you're getting holiday party bookings. It's election night, and you have a local candidate who wants to have a celebration party, for example. So there's a difference between how you set your operating hours and what's actually allowed in the CUP. So I just would like your feedback on, this is kind of a strange way for a council person to be presenting this, but don't you think you should have a little bit more expanded hours to give you opportunities here? Closing at 9 seems really early for a full-service restaurant.
Actually, it's without precedent that this would be raised, so.
Well, then I think I'll just take this in, Terry. No. All I was doing in the matrix, quite honestly, was just following our current hours of operation. That's what those hours are. I guess in the past, when we had that victory party for Mike Wasserman, it did go into later hours, and I didn't think that I had to notify anybody of that.
And you did not, because you didn't have any hours set in,
Okay.
but now you will.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying.
So I guess what I would ask, if it's proper to ask, is the town council to give recommendation on those hours.
All right, so for example, if one were to say 10 or 11 during the week and 12 on the weekend, just as an example, you would be okay with that?
Yes, I would.
Okay, and may I continue?
Please.
You mentioned when we spoke offline that you were dropping the dancing lessons?
That's correct.
Okay, so every place that dancing lessons currently appears in the CUP needs to be edited to take that out?
That's correct.
Okay. I want to talk about nachos. I haven't.
I hope that's a good thing.
I have not been to Pedro's for some time, but in other Mexican restaurants, nachos are not. I don't really think of them as an appetizer. They are like an entree, and in our current language, we say you have to have food served with your alcohol, and they specifically call out nachos as being one of those things that doesn't count as food. So I wanted to confirm with you that at Pedro's, nachos is not just chips and salsa, it's something
That's
major.
correct. Chips and salsa are different. Nachos is actually a very large plate with chips, cheese, chicken or beef, sour cream, guacamole, and salsa.
So we need to
It's
figure
a
out a
meal.
way in the CUP to address that.
Right.
Okay. And then, I'm sorry, this is the last one at this time. On your special events, you currently have it that you would stop, they would go until 12, but you would stop serving food at 9, and 3 hours of drinking in a special event environment like Carnival or Cinco de Mayo seems potentially problematic to me, and I wondered if it would be more appropriate that you would continue food service right up until the end of the event.
You know what we could do on that? In the bar at happy hour, we always have 2 or 3 different pans of whatever the happy hour food is for that night. Without keeping a whole kitchen crew on, I can certainly make sure that that happens all, up until at least an hour before we stop, if that's acceptable to the town council.
I'm not sure how we would work that into language, but let's think about that as we go through the hearing and see what we can come up with, but I'm done for right now.
I'd like to make just a quick comment, kind of a follow-up to Councilman McNutt's comments. Ordinarily, when we're talking about a restaurant with alcohol service, and we look at the hours of operation, the bar closes before the kitchen closes, because the intent is to terminate the service of alcohol and let people eat right up to the time that they depart. I don't see it an issue personally, so long as it's, so long as our approval recommends a particular service of food as long as you're open for business, because it's a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And that in terms of the alcohol service, that it terminates at a certain point. Whether you do it with this, hot plate or whatever, it doesn't make any difference. That's food service, and you don't have to keep the kitchen open any longer than that. It's how long you're going to serve food, okay? So that was an issue for me as well. Another question I have is the issue of the entertainment and the time of entertainment. Now, do I understand this correctly? The intention is that you would, once entertainment starts, that people could be in the dining room portion and not be eating a meal? Is that the intention? So then that was...
They'd be eating in the dining room area. Everybody would be eating.
No matter what?
No matter what.
All right. That clarifies that. Thank you. Yes, Councilwoman Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I had 3 questions, and the other folks got 2 of them. With regard to the live music and comedy, I believe you state that you're going to have a maximum of a 4-piece band.
That's correct.
Is that what I understood? I'm assuming that's going to be amplified?
That's correct.
And with regard to comedy, is it comedy where somebody stands behind the mic and tells jokes, or is that also have a music or amplified music kind of component?
No, it would be just a comedian, and something very important to note. When you hire a comedian, you can go from G to X. And so it's very specific in our matrix that the comedian is G-rated. That means mom and dad and their kids can come and listen to the comedian. So it's one person standing up there on a mic, walking around maybe, or just standing on the stage telling jokes.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Leonardis, any comments or questions? Oh, okay.
I have none that haven't already been addressed.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Well, we have one other speaker. So, gentlemen, why don't you take a seat? And I'd like to ask Mark McDonald to come up. Ms. McDonald, thank you. And anyone else who wants to speak to this item, again, the buff card to our clerk. Mr. McDonald.
It's actually Maldonado, but close.
You're right, it is Maldonado.
I've been a resident of Los Gatos since 1977. I've been a customer of Pedro's since then as well. And I live on 245 Almendra Avenue, which is about 700 feet or so from the restaurant. I met with Mike and Kurt over the weekend, and they went through the elevation changes to Pedro's. I have absolutely no problem with that. They also explained to me the changes that they want to make to the conditional use permit in terms of the hours of operation and the entertainment and all that. And I just want to go on record that I have no problem with that as well. Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Maldonado. Any questions for Mr. Maldonado? Thank you very much. Last chance. Seeing none, I'm going to invite the applicants back up to rebut anything that's been said so far.
Well, we just, again, like to especially thank the council for last hearing, reopening the public hearing so we can request a continuance and specifically address these items that we've addressed for this meeting tonight. So thank you very much for doing that. Right. That enabled us to get here with this very concise, clean package.
All right.
We do have some people here in the audience that are in support of this application, but we, for purposes of keeping the time short, we just asked them to raise their hands if they're in support of Pedro's. We have Ruth here, I know, some friends back here, some other people. So we do have community support. As you know, last year we gave you a whole bunch of emails and signed a petition from the restaurant itself. So, Mike, go ahead.
I just want to address one thing. At last meeting, I told you I was going to have a small town hall meeting.
Yeah.
So last week, I typed up a letter, and we hand-delivered it to all the residents 300 to 700 feet around the restaurant. And we had it for this Saturday from 3 to 4 if they wanted to come with appetizers and beverage. And Mr. Maldonado was kind enough to come. He's not here anymore, but he came and said he liked what was going on, but no one else showed up. But we did do what we said we were going to do. And
so it was a very small
town hall meeting.
Okay. All right. Okay, very good. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Leftover food.
I guess silence is consent. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Don't go too far away, okay? And, because we may have questions for you as we develop our discussion, but is there any question right now from members of council?
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor, and at this time, obviously, you're going to go through your discussions, but we respectfully request that you approve our application tonight so we can proceed.
Thank you.
Once you wrap up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. All right, I open it up for council discussion. Any more staff comment or a motion? Councilwoman McNutt.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to compliment the applicant on really listening to the concerns of the Planning Commission and the council and coming back with a revised proposal that is much more specific and clear. And I know I was not at the original council meeting, but I can tell you now that I was not terribly enthusiastic about the live entertainment idea for lots of different reasons, but I am much more comfortable with it now because it is so narrowly defined and limited. And so even though we don't have an entertainment policy in place yet, I feel okay with experimenting on this, and worked into conditional use permit is the acknowledgement that it may change once we do get that entertainment policy in place. So, Mayor, I can do a motion now, but it's quite complicated because there are so many potential changes on the conditions. So do you want the motion and incorporate those changes, or do you want me to go through the changes first and then go back and make the motion?
I guess my preference would be that you go ahead and outline the changes and then make the motion, but I appreciate the fact that you're ready to make a motion.
Okay, so I'll do the changes on the CUP in numerical order, and first is the conditions for the use, not for the ANS. So on condition number 1, it would be to incorporate the staff report edits as suggested in the staff report, but also we would need to correct the matrix if we make the changes that I'm going to recommend in number 8. In number 7, which relates to alcohol beverage service.
Madam McNutt, just for a
Yes,
second.
I'm sorry.
As Councilwoman McNutt makes each of these recommendations, I'd like to see if there's any comment from council at
Okay,
that point.
one at a time.
Anyone want to make comment on her first change? Seeing none, proceed.
Okay, on number 7 relates to alcohol beverage service, and it says that meal service is not required with alcohol. This is in the staff report version of number 7. I would like to make it consistent with all of our other restaurants and say that meal service is required with alcohol beverage service in the restaurant. I would be open to having the bar area, which I believe has about 30 seats, not have it required in the bar area, the standalone bar area, but in the restaurant per se, and then of course outdoors. And I also think we need to take out the word nachos in this particular case as an example of appetizers.
Okay, so nachos is struck. Anyone else wish to comment on that? Any issues with that? I think it's appropriate because of the fact that Pedro's has been an operation for its entire history that had the bar without service of food in our definition. But I do think that there are basically 3 populations, in my observation anyway, that go and use the bar in Pedro's. One is a population waiting for to be seated for a meal. Another is a population that is actually having a meal in the bar. And the third is one guy who shows up every night and sits at the bar. So the last man represents an individual who would just see that as the way he or she wants to spend an evening. It's been that way forever. I don't believe we've had any issues with that, and I think that from this perspective, it would be appropriate to grandfather that part, but it's very clear that all the rest of the restaurant is serving a full meal with alcohol without exception. Councilwoman Spector.
Thank you. I'll wait to see how the whole thing plays out, but right now, I still think that we should enforce our policy of requiring meal service with liquor service. I understand that this is a pre-existing use, but I also understand that they're coming in for a conditional use permit for the first time, and this is our opportunity to apply our rules consistently throughout. And I do have a question in that regard.
Please.
Staff has given us a desk item relating to beverage service, entertainment, and so forth. And I was just curious as to those establishments that allow entertainment, if we know what kind of entertainment that is, specifically as to amplified, and if we know when that permission was granted vis-a-vis the alcohol beverage policy.
Each of those establishments that allow entertainment have very particular conditions placed on them and were approved at various dates. If you have a question about a specific establishment, I'd be happy to answer that question, but it would take a while to go through the list.
All right. Yes, Mr. Manager.
Through the mayor, just wanted to clarify, so the likely change to be included in the motion related to condition 7 is to leave it as originally worded, not with the strikeout and adds as identified on page 5 of the staff report, but then to strike nachos from the list, and probably in the closing sentence to add, meal service is not required with alcoholic beverage service for the 30 seats in the designated bar area. Just to make it clear that it's the seats in the bar area, not just at the bar. Is that what the councilwoman's suggesting? Okay.
All right, is that understood? All right, continue.
Thank you. And just to make a comment on Mrs. Spector's comments, what's so interesting about this chart we received is how inconsistent we have been. And I was just going through, I mean, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 or 7 restaurants that have meals, alcohol with meals only in the dining area and separate bars, not counting our bars, but restaurants like California Cafe where there's a set-aside bar. So that's just a point of interest. So condition number 8 is the next one. That's the hours of operation. And I would suggest, and again, I'm just using the matrix to try to find some consistency here. I would suggest that Monday through Thursday and Sunday, the closing hour be 11, and Saturday and Sunday, the closing hour be 12. That's potential closing hour, not their operating time.
Okay, did Friday fit in there someplace?
Oh, no.
Okay, so we don't give them hours on Friday.
Yeah, they have to be closed on Friday. So on Friday, let's see, what are they currently proposing?
The recommendation is same as Saturday.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got Sunday. I put down Sunday twice. So Monday through Thursday and Sunday till 11 and Friday and Saturday until 12. Sorry. And then the special holiday things that they have on New Year's Eve till 1.
Okay. Everyone understand that? Any concerns or questions? I'm assuming if there are no questions that this is something that is understood and not necessarily assuming approval at this point, but it is understood. Okay, continuing.
On conditions number 9 and 10, it would be to accept the edited versions that are in the staff report, with the only exception on number 10 of eliminating dance lessons, since they no longer are pursuing that.
Okay, so dance goes the way of nachos. Okay. All right.
And on condition number 11 regarding events, in order to bring food service available through the whole evening, I think we could do that by just eliminating the sentence in the staff report that says food service shall be available, because otherwise it would just fall under I don't think we would specifically have to call it out.
All right.
Is that correct?
So, and that means that we're not calling out the fact that food service is served all night because it's a given from previous language.
I would assume that we wouldn't need to.
Is that clear? Okay. Members of council?
That's clear.
All right.
And then on number 12, which talks about dancing, the dance lessons again would need to be omitted from that.
Is that it?
And then the last change is on the ANS conditions, and we would have conditions 1, 4, 5, and 6 that would be edited according to the staff report.
Okay. Is there clarification on that, Mr. Manager?
The only clarification, I'm sorry to go backwards, is with the hours of operation, condition 8 on page 5 of the staff report. We got the closing time for Sunday through Thursday would be 11, Friday and Saturday at 12. Then all of the special event nights would be at 1, or would it remain as requested, New Year's Eve at 1 and the others at midnight?
For me, I would leave it as specified.
And no change to the opening hours or any of them? Okay. Just wanted.
All right. All right. So those are your recommendations. You received no comments that would negate that, so.
Mayor, would you like to reopen the public hearing and ask the applicant if they have any problems with these before we, or do you want to not care what they think?
That's a loaded question, I would ask, we're going to reopen. If you want to just say anything that you find of
I'm
issue.
very grateful for the clarifications, and I'm fine with everything.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
So we'll close the public hearing and look for a motion.
Okay. Oh, no.
Yes.
There is a linkage to the next item just to be aware of, and that is the outdoor patio hours. Prior to the change of the restaurant being able to stay open till 11, 12, or 1, depending on the night, we didn't have a condition closing the patio at 9 because the restaurant was closing at 9. Other patios do close at 9, such as the next case coming before you. So we did want to ask the council if they wanted consistency that the outdoor seating area would close at 9 or just close when the restaurant closes.
Madam Maker of the motion?
What I have on the staff report is, it says use of outdoor seating is not allowed after 9 p.m. 7 days a week. And so I had no changes on that one.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
And we just wanted to note that for the next item, the patio hours are until 10, so there will be a small inconsistency there.
Well, that's what they're requesting.
Yes.
Yeah. And actually, we've already noted that there are inconsistencies all over this place. So we're not going to have everything close at one time. Okay?
Now?
Now.
Okay. So I will make a motion to approve CUP U-10-019 and ANS S-10-044, and to adopt the resolution approving outdoor seating, live entertainment, and exterior modifications with all of the changes previously discussed.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Yes, Madam Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to tell the two of you that from a purely human point of view, you did a great job cleaning up your application. And I do appreciate it, and I enjoyed talking with you by phone and getting to understand everything better. Of course, you always know where this goes, semicolon, however, comma. I'm going to not be supporting this because of the entertainment component, and not because the entertainment might not be fine, but because I think from a planning point of view, from a town point of view, right now what they are requesting and what they will probably get is inconsistent with our alcohol beverage policy. I think that we should deal with that policy, hold public hearings on it, and make a decision as to what we want or don't want to do with that policy, and then apply it to future applications, as opposed to granting exceptions to the policy and then telling the people who have exceptions that, well, if we ever change the policy, we're going to make it apply to you. I just think from a planning point of view, that is not a good way to do things. But like I said, you seem like good guys, and I enjoyed chatting with you. But I'll be voting against the motion.
And I want to speak to that same issue because I think that there's another point of view. And it is that we requested, I believe in 2007, that we develop an entertainment policy. And we still haven't done that. And we have now a number of venues that allow entertainment. And I think this is kind of like creating common law. When you start to look at something that's presented to you, you say, does this or does this not work? If we think that it does work, then in effect we can say, in this particular case, we find a value to this. And at a certain point in time, probably what's going to happen is whatever legislation does come to us, it will reflect the kinds of decisions that we've been making in the last few years. The idea being that you can either come from a theoretical position and develop your law, or you can come from something that perhaps is practical, that demonstrates that you can achieve something, and the law may then actually start to imitate the reality. And in that particular case, I am comfortable with this, but I absolutely appreciate the fact that Councilwoman Spector indicates something very consistently, and the fact is that we have not established this yet, and indeed, the point of view that she voices is very valid. But from my point of view, I think that this is, in effect, we are developing law as we speak tonight. So, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Leonardis.
I also want to compliment the applicants for taking the public hearing and taking the feedback that was provided and coming up with a solution that I think is going to work for them as well as the community very well.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No?
Passes 4-1. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We move on now to item, no need to applaud. They understand what benefit they receive. Moving on now to item number 7. This is a request for a conditional use permit for an architecture and site application for 217 North Santa Cruz to allow exterior modifications to a commercial structure to operate a wine bar and retail wine shop. A wine bar and retail wine shop with outdoor seating on property zoned C2. We have some cards. I'm going to ask that the applicant comes forward, and we will give you 10 minutes, and whoever's on your team, we'd ask that you divide that time appropriately. I'm sorry. And while you come forward, then just kind of sit down. Because we're going to let the staff have the first say on this, okay? Staff.
Mayor,
And this again is Jennifer Savage.
Before they start?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to have to excuse myself now. Thank you. I hope you have a good evening.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman Spector, for being with us tonight for this period of time. There's another commitment that she has to keep. All right. So, staff.
There is a desk item for this application. Part of the desk item is the same table provided to you for the last item, which is a list of alcoholic beverage and entertainment establishments in the Central Business District. And it also includes the retail wine establishment just outside of the Central Business District. The applicant is requesting approval for a conditional use permit to operate a wine bar and retail wine shop with outdoor seating, and approval of an architecture and site application to allow exterior modifications. Staff analyzed the project against the town's alcoholic beverage policy, the town's policy regarding displacing retail uses with restaurant uses, and the standards for outdoor seating. In addition to the sale of wine and accessories, the applicant is proposing indoor and outdoor seating, beer and wine service, and food service. The food service would be available during beer and wine service, but not required. The business would open at 11 a.m. and close at 9 p.m. on Sunday and Tuesday, 12 a.m. on Wednesday and Thursday, and 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday. The hours proposed on Wednesday and Thursday are in conflict with the town's alcoholic beverage policy. The use includes a retail component and lacks built-in commercial cooking facilities, but the late night hours, in addition to the lack of a meal service requirement, emphasize a bar use. Also, the space was previously occupied by a retail use, and the proposed use would allow a new food and beverage establishment to displace a retail use. It should be noted that Council directed staff to revise the alcoholic beverage policy to expand use categories beyond restaurant and bar, and the revisions are anticipated to be completed in the near term. The proposal was reviewed by the Planning Commission on February 9th. The Commission recommended approval with modified conditions and direction to the applicant to provide supporting evidence of the business's substantial retail component to support a finding that the business does not conflict with the town's policy regarding displacing retail uses with restaurant uses. The applicant's supplemental information explains the types of products and displays and provides illustrations of the type of shelving. However, the location and amount of retail remains unchanged from the plans reviewed by the Planning Commission. The alcoholic beverage policy gives the hearing body discretion to approve alcoholic beverage service when the proposal will not negatively impact residential neighborhoods, alcohol-related incidences will not occur, and when the application will provide a positive impact to the commercial area. The town's policy regarding additional restaurant uses displacing retail uses in the downtown provides the hearing body discretion the ability to conduct a careful review of new restaurant applications. Although the council may determine that this use is not a restaurant, the use would displace a retail use with a food and beverage establishment. The desk item also addresses some questions raised by a council member, which include questions regarding wine tasting uses, other businesses that serve alcoholic beverages without a meal service requirement, maximum occupancy, differentiation of food service and retail sales tax, conditioning the amount of retail space, and an ABC moratorium. This concludes staff presentation, and staff is available to answer any questions related to the desk item or the application.
Thank you, Ms. Savage. Questions from council for staff? Yes, Madam McNutt.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 2 or 3 or 4 questions. I have the desk item here that talks about wine tasting, but can you expand a little bit more on our definition of the difference between wine tasting and the experience in a wine bar?
Certainly. The wine tasting is permitted and defined specifically by the Alcoholic Beverage Control Department as specific size pours of wine and a number. It's often associated with wine growers, but wine cellars may also provide wine tasting. The difference between the wine tasting where they have small 1-ounce pours and a wine bar is that the wine bar serves full glasses. Establishments that are permitted only wine tasting do not. The wine tasting uses in town are not required to serve meals, as it is just a wine tasting, although they often do serve some sort of food such as crackers. A wine bar typically has more substantial food available, although the one wine establishment that could also be called a wine bar that was approved in town does have food service available and is not required to serve meals with alcoholic beverage service.
So I'm looking at the business plan here. So my understanding is a wine bar can do wine tasting, but wine tasting establishments can't be a wine bar.
Correct.
Okay. And we're really sure about Enoteca not being required to serve food? Because I sure thought that was the case, and I think I chided them one time when I was there. So
they're required to have food at all times,
but not to serve?
They're not required to serve an alcoholic beverage with a meal. No.
Okay. And then on condition number 4, where it says approved use is a wine shop and wine bar. So a wine shop, how narrowly defined is that? And what I'm looking for here is how much flexibility would this business have to expand their retail experience once they get into it? So if they found, for example, that there were wine accessories that they might offer in addition to bottles of wine, or even food products like olives or olive oil or something else, crackers, that they would want to, as I'm looking, I'm trying to create opportunities for them to maintain and expand the retail component, should we decide to go in the direction of approving this. So with a word like wine shop, how narrow is that, or how much flexibility do we have?
Our town code establishes when a conditional use permit modification is required, and staff would not interpret adding wine accessories such as food or bottle openers would be a substantial departure from their original proposal, as it's noted in their letter of justification, and also because it's a retail, those items are for retail sales, and retail is allowed in that use whether or not there's a conditional use permit.
Okay, and then if I might just
You may.
two more. Sorry. I'm back on maximum occupancy, and this one, do we have maximum occupancy numbers on retail as part of retail CUPs?
Typically, no. But there is a maximum occupancy that is established by the fire and building codes.
And is the number that is listed in the CUP the same as the fire marshal number?
Right. The application does include a occupancy analysis in their plans, and that is based on the fire and building codes.
Okay. And then my last question is more a theoretical question, and it might involve the police chief since he's here. I'm interested in the enclosure, so I'm on the ANS part of it now. And I know that typically we always are talking about when there's outdoor seating with alcohol service, of making sure that there's a separation between public thoroughfare and where the alcohol is being served. And we'll be talking about this more when the applicant comes forward, but I'm really concerned about the particular logistics of this building. And I wanted to know, from staff's point of view, how much flexibility could we have to not have a totally enclosed area so that we would have the flow that I think they might need for customer access and still have it as a safe environment from a police point of view?
Thank you for that question. If I could just interject about from a town standard point of view, there are the outdoor seating standards, and there's also in the alcoholic beverage policy a note that you should separate the outdoor seating when alcoholic beverage service is allowed from a public area. In both of those, it's separating the private outdoor seating from public. The alcoholic beverage policy is a little less defined in so much that it's separates just a public area, not a public right-of-way. So it's something where the town council may have the discretion to determine that to the satisfaction of the hearing body, their proposed outdoor seating is sufficient. In this particular case, in so much that they're proposing landscaping immediately adjacent to the public right-of-way. It may, however, not be substantial enough to the satisfaction of the hearing body based on the other uses on the property. And then I don't know if the police department has any additional comment.
Our interest is to follow alcoholic beverage policy, which is would direct a closure of that area, either that or to have an attendant in that area. However, it's a small number of seats. We recognize that. But given that it's a small number of people, we think it's a reasonable accommodation to come in through the restaurant and be seated in that area. We're concerned more about the exception than the rule. And if there were a large number of people on the street and interaction, we're looking for a sufficient height around that area to send a message to the people in that area that they shouldn't be interacting with patrons on the street or passing anything across. And again, I think that's a relatively low likelihood of occurrence, or that alcohol not leave that area. So it's really a principle-based approach to follow what we think are the appropriate guidelines, and we think the business impact in terms of flow is not sufficiently negatively affected by closing that area off.
If I could ask a follow-up question to that, Chief. So the interest we have, and validly so, is that in the public area, that would be the public right-of-way, the sidewalk, that there would be a barrier to prohibit a passing of alcohol from the seating area in the restaurant to someone who is on the sidewalk. Is that not correct? Is that the primary intention?
It's less prohibit and more to signal or to indicate that it's a closed-off area. It's a disincentive by having a barrier of a certain height, and how that's accomplished, I think, is a design issue. But it's to give a physical break between those two spaces to indicate that the area inside is for the purpose of consuming and the area outside is for passage.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the questions that they're going to ask is the access to the Santa Cruz Avenue side from that area that's currently delineated as a planter box right now. Once a person comes into that area, don't they cease being in the public domain? So that if they walk into the area immediately adjacent to the building in one of the two openings that currently exist, it would seem to me that makes them now part of they've come out of a public and into a private setting.
That's true, and if they were to go out, then they'd suddenly be in a public setting. It is partly to also control the flow of alcohol and the walking out with a glass of wine or some other beverage. And because it's a limited number of seats out in that area, I think it's wholly appropriate to come in through the main part of the business and walk into that spot. You still get to enjoy the feeling of being outdoors in an establishment you visited. If it were open in the way that it's indicated, within immediate proximity to two of the three tables, someone could just step up with a glass of wine and step out, which would be a violation of town interests, I believe. And again, I think that's more likely the exception, but I do think we need to pay attention to the probability or the potential for that happening.
Okay, thank you. And manager wants to comment?
Just wanted to comment, I believe, as noted on the plans, that when the 6 seats are out in the patio, those seats will basically not be in the inside part of the restaurant, easing the flow as well to get to the patio. It's, as noted, 17 seats in the winter and 11 seats when the patio is open are in the inside. So the egress, as the chief mentioned, will be possible.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Councilman Leonardis?
I was just going to ask staff, this is related to the CUP, and we'll wait for Jennifer to come back. This particular entity doesn't really have any, or by town code, I guess, doesn't have a definition yet, a wine bar, so to speak. If this business entity were to not survive, would this revert back to retail, full retail?
Yes, unless someone else was to use the conditional use permit as approved and specifically conditioned.
So they would have to reapply under a new business entity as a wine bar establishment?
They would not have to reapply for a conditional use permit. They would have to come in and get what's called a certificate of use and occupancy to allow the town the ability to provide them conditions of approval and gain assurance that they will operate under the conditions of approval. Now, there is a period of time in which if it's not filled, if a vacancy isn't filled, that conditional use permit would expire. But if this entity was to close on Monday, someone could come in on Tuesday and open with a wine bar and wine shop.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? We're going to open the public hearing, and I'm going to ask Mr. Fumiya and Mr. Foley to come forward. You are the applicants. I assume you're the only one speaking officially for your operation, okay? And again, 10 minutes is offered. We encourage you to use it diligently, but contain yourself to that 10 minutes time.
I just wanted to thank everybody for having us again, and I know that we were able to meet with you guys individually, and although I wasn't part of those meetings, all of them, I know they were very productive for the team, and we just really appreciate you guys, volunteering your time to meet with us. I would just like to start by saying, as a resident of Los Gatos, born and raised, it has always been a dream to open a business in the beloved town I grew up in. Studying wine and being part of the industry for the last 10 years, I knew that opening a wine shop and wine bar would be the best method of contributing to my fabulous hometown. Following in the footsteps of our McCarthy and Fumiya family ancestors, who established family-owned farming businesses in the first part of the last century, myself and Joey will use this opportunity to establish a mom-and-pop business that will support local agricultural businesses we hold near and dear. The Foley family, beginning with Jim's great-grandparents, has largely supported various businesses in town and the goals of the town since the 1920s. Jim looks to carry on this idea of promoting the success of Los Gatos. Along with my partners, Joey and Jim, all Los Gatos residents, we have decided that Los Gatos is where we want to live and work. SB 17 will focus on promoting local products by selling wines produced by local wineries. We will also celebrate these wineries and give them a venue in which their products can be seen by locals who have the most potential to consistently buy these products. The Santa Cruz Mountains offers a rich and often overlooked history of agriculture. SB 17 will celebrate these local winemakers and grape growers by exposing customers to their world-renowned wines. There is a natural synergy between local winemaking industry and the town of Los Gatos, which acts as the geographic gateway to the Santa Cruz Mountain wineries. In conclusion, SB 17 is a local business owned and operated by local people who are promoting and selling local products. SB 17 will surely be a welcome addition to the community and will act as a willing intermediate between citizens and local wineries. We would like to thank the town staff for all of their effort in helping us craft what we think will be an exciting new business for the town. We hope you grant us approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Foley?
I'm just here to help field questions.
All right. Very good. Questions for the applicants, council? Madam McNutt?
Thank you. I have 2 or 3 questions for you. And the first somewhat relates to the previous agenda item tonight. So on your operating hours, you, I assume, are planning on being closed on Mondays, but you are not...
That was actually a point of clarity that we tried to make in the supplemental. We don't want to preclude ourselves from being closed on Monday.
So it should be a 7-day a week. So that's one correction that we need to make.
Right. We don't anticipate being open on Mondays, but
you never know how businesses have a mind of their own. And
correct.
You just kind of follow after them, is my experience. I want to talk about your hours. So you're requesting staying open until midnight on Wednesday and Thursday and 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday, but closing at 9 on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. 12 and 1 seem late to me. So, and I'm comparing it to what we have on other establishments in downtown. Can you try to make a persuasive argument as to why you need to be open that late?
I can try. I think what we've done through our market research is we've just noticed some trends that people tend to eat a little bit later. Sometimes, you get a late dinner reservation at 9:30 or 10 p.m. and there's somewhere that you want to go after that's not necessarily one of the other drinking establishments in town, somewhere where you can go and have a quiet glass of wine, and that's kind of the market that we're trying to tap into. Or perhaps you've worked later on and you want to come home and try some wine and have a bite to eat, or you've gone to a late movie. And we've included kind of Wednesday and Thursday just because we think that not everybody has like the same Monday through Friday schedule, and we want to be accommodating to all the different patrons.
And so, hypothetically, if someone were to suggest that 12 be moved to 11 and the 1 be moved to 12, would that cause you great anguish?
This is great anguish is what you're trying to address now.
I don't think so. I mean, I think ideally we would like to take a shot at the later hours. We don't think that our establishment is going to be, rowdy. And so we're more going for kind of the quiet enjoyment of the later hours. But I don't think we'd have a big problem.
I think basically what we're doing is we're targeting a certain type of person that is looking for this type of thing, like my parents who are actually in the crowd. Like, they're not going to go to CB Hannigan's. They're going to want to go have like a nice glass of wine.
Johnny Hannigan's.
I mean, nothing against CB Hannigan's. I love CB Hannigan's. I would go to CB Hannigan. So Mr. Hannigan's going to come to our place, and then, the college students are going to go to his place. So we're just basically looking at a certain person, type of person that we believe would be looking to come to our place at a later hour and offer the type of services that we would be able to offer. Sorry about that.
All right.
Mayor, I have just two more questions. The other hypothetical question I want to ask you is that you're currently proposing that food not be required with service of alcohol, but only be available. And with the exception, apparently, of Enoteca, which is a big surprise to me, we have been really adamant in every application that it follow the alcohol policy and it be required. So what is your response to that one?
I think our vision is that people are typically going to come in and they're going to want to order food with their wine when we're sort of in the wine tasting, wine bar mode. There are just certain circumstances where we don't think that, like for example, if someone wanted to come in and try wine and was planning on making a purchase or join the wine club and they were kind of focused on the wine tasting part of it, that they may not necessarily want food at that time. So we want to be flexible for the customers.
And my last one, so I don't think we did disclosures on this, but I will disclose that I met with the applicant prior to tonight, and I expressed my concern from a marketing point of view just on the layout of your space, because having the main entrance down a little alley makes it more difficult for customers to know that you exist, even with signage, and just the layout of the building with the overhang of the deck up above and with the planter out in front and you're set back from the street anyway. I feel like you're at a disadvantage to start with as a new business. I very much like the idea of the door that opens up, the French door that opens up. What is your opinion on the idea of the total enclosure, and how do you define that? And how will that help or hurt your business?
Yeah, I think if you look at the plan, the building is set up in a way that it's going to be really nice to take advantage of the front there and open it up to kind of welcome people in off the sidewalk. But we also want to add the outdoor patio, which would sit right in front of the entry. We feel that's really the best way to have people enter would be from the front and through those opening doors. The way the building is set up now, the entrance is on the side and you have to go down an alley, kind of a plaza area along the side that is commonly used by Dolce Spazio's customers. And so we also want to be good neighbors and not really interfere with what they have going on. So to have the clear delineation in front via the planter boxes but have openings on the sides, we think would be kind of the best way for us to get people into our business.
All right.
That's all right now. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Rice.
I'll disclose I also met with the applicants, and I'm going to follow up with Councilwoman McNutt's question on the front entrance, because when we met, you also indicated that that was what you had hoped to be your primary entrance and exit. You also heard the chief comment about a clear, barrier to avoid people walking in and out with alcohol. Trying to find a middle ground or something that would work. I notice you have a gate on your drawings on one side, but not on the other side. Can you expand on that a little bit?
I think the gate was there to sort of satisfy, what the police department was looking for to prevent commingling of the different patrons from the two different establishments. On the other side, we didn't see it as being much of an issue. There's a restaurant right next door, and just from what we're proposing, we didn't want to close the entire patio off. I think something that he brought up, maybe to put a different spin on it, is there aren't going to be too many people out there because it's a very small patio, and so the idea of passing things or not or preventing people from doing what it's not intended to do is limited in that fact.
If I may. So if it, because I'm sensitive to what the chief commented on of trying to keep a standardization and not rule by exception. If, for example, it was required to have spring-loaded self-closing gates on both sides with a sign that says, a small, tasteful sign that says no alcohol beyond this point, would that, what was the phrase you used, cause you great anguish?
No, I think something like that could work, but again, I think what we're trying to avoid is confusion for the patrons coming in, like on the sidewalk, as they come down the sidewalk. How do I get in here? Where exactly am I going? Am I going into the coffee shop? Am I going into the wine shop? Whose patio is that kind of thing? So maybe if it was on just the side of Dolce, I don't know where we're going to get most of our traffic coming north or south, but it seems like that would be the more congested area. So to direct people in on the south side, if that were to remain open, that would be more helpful to us than entirely closing the patio. But the idea of spring-loaded, self-closing gates, I think should be okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's adequate.
Councilman Leonardis?
I was just going to make a general comment that whoever is serving out there on the patio would also probably be trained to recommend to the people sitting at the tables that you do not bring your alcohol beyond that point.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. Just a couple of comments. Again, it looks like what we're doing here is breaking new ground, in effect creating law prior to our ability to write law. But again, as we talked about in the last application, it seems to me that has some viability, given the fact that we have a proposal or a couple of proposals in front of us. And this will direct our future orientation. I want to respect the chief's issues, and I do like the comment that that Vice Mayor Rice made, that you probably want to do something to keep people from just an easy flow out of the patio area and into the environment right next to you. I think, as you hinted at, that the north side of your patio, as it abuts Dolce, might be the most logical place to close it off. Maybe it's not necessary to have an entrance point at that, and that might actually allow you to reconfigure your tables in some way, and then take a look at the ramp area on the south as an entrance, and discuss that with staff in terms of whether or not they can clearly delineate what you're attempting to do. I think that from the perspective of aesthetics, and I believe that Joe Hargett indicated they would not appreciate a tall physical structure, because that would block the view into their establishment as a result. But the idea of a low barrier with a planted area might be something that I think was decided and probably recommended. A question about your interior space. As I've seen your space, is there an entrance, a stairway to the second floor from inside your building?
The stairway going upstairs to the offices? No.
Right. So there's some configuration that looks like a stairwell on the north side of the building at the rear of your structure. I just wondered if that was an exit or an entrance. If it's not, it's not. Okay.
Not that I'm aware of. I think the upstairs offices are accessed via staircase on the front. There's another door.
Correct.
And I think in the back there is another staircase for another building that maybe.
All right. This was inside, but it could be false front. So.
Okay. Oh, no, I know what you're talking about. There's a staircase going up as you look in, and it just goes up to a mezzanine level that was actually wine storage when this was a wine shop before. It may or may not remain.
All right. Thank you. And is there an intention to do a lot of work with the exterior, in particular, the tiled walkway that abuts your building? I mean, maybe I should phrase it, it needs work. And I wondered if there was some thought of when you're starting to do your remodeling, if that's going to be part of your plan.
We're working on that, but I think actually the entire property is covered in the terracotta tile, and then the building's built on that. But we're working on what we can do in the front there too. It's hard because it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But we haven't really gotten to that point yet.
Okay. And then my last question at this point, before we hear from our public, this is a retail establishment that has a wine component. I believe that Councilwoman McNutt asked in some way, what is your game plan here? Is it to allow a certain percentage of your business to be dedicated strictly to the retail component? That would be also, including selling the wine, beyond just the wine tasting or the wine bar concept. What is your feeling about the direction of travel with the retail?
I think it's an excellent question. I think it is largely retail-based, the vision that we have. So there's going to be extensive racking of for-sale wine in the establishment for people, to come in and take away. Gino can talk about it further. He's put together a plan for a wine club for people to subscribe to. We want to have an internet-based business where we can distribute wine out of there to the customers and ship it. There's plenty of opportunities for growth on the retail side, and we feel that the on-premise portion of it just complements that because it lets people come in and try the wine and then become more loyal customers going forward. And then just along with that idea is the food component that typically you want to enjoy food with the wine. So it all sort of fits together, and I think both sides of the business feed off each other really well. Do you want to add anything about the retail or the...
Yes, I mean, the two components are definitely going to work in concert together. So everything that's going to be available to taste by the glass is also going to be available at a retail price, and that helps our business, that helps our retail business, which is going to be a large part, obviously, and we just feel that it's necessary in order to really boost our retail sales and boost our wine club and also our online sales as well.
All right. And for full disclosure, I met with the applicants twice prior to our coming together tonight. All right. Unless there are other questions, I think we'll go to the public. Yes.
Thank you, Mary. Just a very quick question. In your proposal, you had requested 18 seats, but the staff report and everything that's drafted is for 16 because it's only supported with parking for 16. Just want to make sure you are aware of that.
I think it's 17. I think there were two reports. I think Planning Commission report might have said 18. The calculation that we've backed into to figure out the parking here, I think, results in 16.99999. So we were hoping to go to 17 instead of rounding down.
You ask a lot. Okay. All right. Does that answer your question?
Well, for right now, yes.
For right now. All right. Any other questions? Yes,
Mayor.
Mr. Menardis.
I also met with the applicants. I forgot to disclose that earlier.
Okay. All right. We have a number of people who would like to speak to this item, and if you have not as yet submitted your card, don't hesitate to do so. Just bring it up here to the clerk. The first is Leslie Ribideau, followed by Frank Dorsa, and then Greg Davies. Leslie Ribideau.
Hi, I'm Leslie Robidoux. I own Bettina's clothing store, and it's been in this town for 9 years now. And I can tell you that this is a business that is needed. I do attend that Anateca, or however you say it, all the time. It's packed. My customers go there. They talk about it. They love the action of buying a wine, taking it home, testing it first. I'm just here to back these guys up and to say that this town wants it, and I have many great patrons that are in favor of this, and I'm here to speak for them. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Robidoux. Leslie, no, that was Leslie. Frank Dorsa?
My name is Frank Dorsa. I reside at 15700 Kennedy Road in Los Gatos. In the early 70s, Marilyn and I came to Los Gatos from Willow Glen. There was a little wine shop called Gene's Country Liquors, and they were, to my knowledge, the only ones that were offering wine tasting and wine classes. Back in those days, the most popular wines that were being sold were in gallons, and so we had 6 gallons of the most wonderful wine that was being purchased. And the next class, we had a couple from Los Gatos because there was very few wineries in Los Gatos at that time, and Larry was very knowledgeable. And in the next class, we had a couple from Napa because in the early 70s there wasn't a lot of quality wine coming out of Napa, but the French wines were the wines that the world recognized as really the world leaders in quality. And how that has changed in just 40 years. We now have 75 bonded wineries in the Santa Cruz Mountain appellation. It's hard, and maybe 200 to 300 different vineyards. So this appellation, which we're also blessed to be a part of, and it's such a great wine growing region, I think needs to be supported by something like Joe's proposing. There's a real need for all of us to get our wines exposed to the people in Los Gatos, and I think this is would be a great opportunity. I know that the town of Murphy's was struggling, and there was, I don't know, 15 or 18 wineries in that vicinity that opened wine tasting shops, and now it's a designated spot for tourists to go and spend money in the restaurants and the hotels. I mean, it just has been a boom for the town because they're promoting their wines, and I think Los Gatos has that opportunity as being really the gateway to these 75 bonded wineries. You know, as far as the hours go, and I support their business plan, as far as the hours goes, I think one of the best criteria is let the consumer, if it's successful for later on, there's a need for it. If it isn't, you know, businesses close. Like today I closed the car wash. It was raining. So I think that business kind of dictates what your hours and when you should be open and closed. But anyway, I support them totally. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsa. Greg Davies. And after Mr. Davies, we will have Jared O'Brien and Sutton Rowley and James Manganello. Okay? Mr. Davies.
Hi, I'm Greg Davies. I live at 115 Glen Ridge. Excuse me. My wife and I have lived in town for 33 years. I have a dark secret I have to admit to you. I love wine. And
realize we're being televised.
Yeah, I understand that. That's why I said I love wine. I didn't say we love wine. We live close enough to town to walk to dinner. We often walk to dinner. And the idea of being able to go to a nice spot, have a nice glass of wine, relax in an environment where people my age might frequent is a very attractive idea. We support this effort entirely, and I hope you approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davies. Jared O'Brien.
My name is Gerald O'Brien. I've lived in this community and operated a business in this community for 35 years. For the first 3 of those 35 years, I occupied the building immediately adjacent to these folks. It was 221, which is now the ice cream store. I operated a cheese store in there for 3 years. The next 32 years of the last 35, I operated a wine business in the mountains above the community here. And as many of you know, and Mr. Dorsa addressed, there's a large wine industry in this mountain area right now. I'd like to speak briefly to the health, the financial health of that wine industry. For 40-plus years, the wine industry in the Santa Cruz Mountains has struggled to reclaim an identity as a very high-quality wine-producing area. It's only been the last handful of years that this struggle has come to fruition, and the wine industry for sure, and now many of the general public recognize wines from the Santa Cruz Mountains are among the best in this country, if not the best in this country. So in this economic doldrums that we're in now, we are once again struggling to stay in business, to compete and maintain our fiscal health. One of the reasons that we need this fiscal health is because the town of Los Gatos has benefited from the fiscal health, the soundness of the wine industry in this area. We'd like that to continue. That's why we need a shop like this to help expand the knowledge and education of the high-quality wine industry that exists in the Santa Cruz Mountains. And I fully support this operation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Sutton Rowley. Sutton will be followed by John Anderson and James, as I said before, and then Johnny Hannigan.
Hi, my name is Sutton Rowley. I live at 16436 Bonnie Lane in Los Gatos. I've been a resident of Los Gatos for 30 years. Like most of the folks that you've heard from tonight, I support this effort. I appreciate wine. A lot of the drinking establishments that I go to in this town don't offer the wine that I happen to be looking for. And in discussing this with Joe and his team, I know that they will. And additionally, the whole idea of the last gentleman that was up here is supporting local businesses and their wineries. I'm in total support of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rowley. John Anderson.
Hi, I'm John Anderson. I live at 18951 Bear Creek Road. I own Camel Hill Vineyards. I've been a businessman here in town for the last 45 years. Being in the wine business, we feel a little bit of struggle, but we're pretty excited about Joe and his family opening this shop, because one of the things that he's promised is really supporting the Santa Cruz Mountain vintners. And I think that's a really important step. Some of the other wine shops in town have French wine, or they have a group of wines, but the Santa Cruz Mountains is a pretty special place. And I think that having that direction will bring a lot of people back to realizing what a great product we produce. So I'm in favor of it.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. James Manganello.
Good evening. My name is James Manganello. I live at 16846 Leroy Avenue in Los Gatos. And shortly after, about a week after my wife and I were married, we settled here in town. That was 40 years ago. My wife just retired as a longtime teacher at Van Meter Elementary School. I was a criminal investigator and sentencing specialist for the Santa Clara County Superior Court for 30 years. We have spent our whole life in this town raising our kids, and I'm here in support of this project for many of the reasons that all the other people spoke. The idea to support local wineries who don't have, I believe, not such access to tasting, because some of them are very small. This presents a real venue for them to show their products. And we've spent most of our lives here patronizing all of the fine establishments, and we have many good friends here. So I think it's really a great idea that these young men who were born and raised here with family roots in this valley for many, many years have decided to come here to settle, to put their business down in this wonderful town that I love. And so I would urge you to support the project. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Manganello. Johnny Hannigan. And after Mr. Hannigan, Joe Guerra, Jim Foley, no relation, and Emily Najor.
John Hannigan, 440 San Benito, and I'm not sure what you say after listening to these young gentlemen. I listened to Frank here talking about our wine industry here in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and he's exactly right. We do need more representation in terms of our wine. Our wine is doing great. And one thing I've learned over the last 5 or 6 speakers, they're all from Los Gatos. And that's an important thing. And what Diane McNutt also said, too, about the retail. In order to go ahead and make, I think, a wine shop work, I think you need to go ahead and have some retail. In order you have to have some kind of volume to make it work. You can't just make it on wine tasting alone. And this is one thing where I would really like to support these gentlemen here is because they are local. And the other thing, too, is, well, tonight when I came into my restaurant, which is someplace your parents could come in if they elected. But I collected 2 or 3 wine glasses. 5 years ago, I've been in this business for 40 years here in town, and you do see people that have come to town, and I don't think necessarily it's a personal opinion whether they care for our town or not. Their more opinion is about making money as opposed to our town. These gentlemen here more care about our town. Now, I have a business right down the street from where they're proposing, and I know I can work with them in terms of working out crowd or whatever else. I also serve a lot of the wines that they're going to be serving, but I think for them to make the retail aspect is a very valid point. So I'm coming from a different angle. I think they're going to be supporting the wines that we need. But one, I think the retail is a very good point in terms of you could taste a wine, and hopefully there's a way to, let's say I taste that wine, and maybe you can go ahead and order a couple cases and get it to their home in Los Gatos next day. The other thing is very important to me in this town after 30, 40 years of seeing people come in here is I know I can work with them in terms of confining people to their glassware, not having people walking up and down the street. These are people I can work with. So I advocate the fact that they're going to be there. If somebody's going to be there, I would much rather work with these people than anybody else. I also think it's kind of funny to see the wine shop we had back in 1970s do a complete reverse of coming back to a wine tasting shop. I think it's a wonderful role to see them come back and do a wine shop where it originally kind of started. So I'm in full support of it. Sure, there's going to be a parking problem, and there always has been, but these are the people that I can work with, and I enjoy working with somebody that I don't have to worry about, and I guess my time is up. Good luck, gentlemen. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Hannigan.
I hope.
Joe Guerra.
Thank you, Mayor Brzezinski, members of the council, Town Manager Larson. Joe Guerra on behalf of Los Gatos Bar and Grill, 15.5 North Santa Cruz Avenue. Didn't expect to be in front of you this quickly from the last time we were here. We are here supporting the application in front of you tonight, and I must say I've got a lot of deja vu all over again listening to the conversations about outdoor seating and hours of operation and whatnot, and I'm sure in your infinite wisdom you'll come up with the right mitigation package. But I wanted to make one comment on the hours question and the anguish, because I read the staff report and saw some very familiar language about operating agreements and chief's authority to change things. It seems to me on the issue of the hours particularly, you have a choice between giving what they ask and having the chief enforce it with the language that you, in the staff report, is recommending that he could make those adjustments, or coming back to a lesser hour count and having them have to come back at some point to apply for more hours. And as a business person, I can tell you which one has more anguish, there's no question, and that is having to come back at some point and go back through the process. And I think that, at least from our experience, you've got really solid staff, both in community development and the police department, to work with to make sure that the concerns you have are being addressed by operators in this industry. And we just fundamentally think that having another operator in the industry that would not only serve Los Gatos residents but help attract ongoing visitors to the downtown would be a good thing. So we would ask your support this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guerra. The other Jim Foley.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, yes, I am another Jim Foley. And that is my son, Jim Foley. So there is a certain amount of nepotism here. Anyway, I graduated from St. Mary's in 1960. However, I do happen to live in Saratoga. My family moved out here in the early 50s, and by a luck of fate, we could have been Los Gatos or Saratoga or Monte Sereno or whatever, but we wound up in Saratoga. However, our focus has always been downtown Los Gatos because this is where you shop and this is where you can buy things. I am in full support of the wine bar. I think this is an excellent opportunity for the town of Los Gatos. You've heard all the reasons why here tonight. There is no question why this is a good opportunity. I live in Saratoga, and Saratoga has missed many opportunities, as we all know. All you have to do is look at the downtown. This is an opportunity. It is unique. It is not to be missed. Don't miss an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Foley. And our last card is from Emily Najur. And Emily, unless someone else wishes to speak, will be our concluding comment before we ask our applicants to come back. So again, if you wish to say anything about this particular item on the agenda, fill out the beige card, bring it to the clerk. Emily.
Hi, I'm Emily Nager. I live at 200 Winchester Circle in Los Gatos. I opened a business here in Los Gatos over a year ago now. It's a Pure Barre. It's a fitness studio in Old Town Shopping Center, right below California Cafe. So I'm standing here tonight just in support of SB 17. I'm lucky. I have many, many women from Los Gatos that come into my studio morning and night, so I sit and talk with them before and after class. They love to work out. They love good wine. So they are very excited. That's the feedback I'm getting. They look forward to being able to sit outside, drink local wines. So I'm hoping tonight that you approve this new wine bar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Najur. All right, that looks like it's all of the individuals who would like to speak. So I'm going to invite the applicants back. If you want to make any closing comments, you have 5 minutes to do that. So please, anything you feel that you need us to know that perhaps we haven't talked about, or any other comments that council made that you'd like further clarification on. And then we'll ask council to make comments. Please.
I think we've had a very good discussion tonight, and it seems like everybody's really understanding where we're coming from with our plan. We're happy to field any further questions about the specifics, but we just heard a great amount of support. It is locals, for locals, by locals, and we're really excited to get it started and get it open.
Okay. No other comments? So, questions from council? I see none. So I'm going to close the public hearing and invite council to say anything further, ask further questions of staff, or make a motion. Councilwoman McNutt.
Thank you. I have 2 questions of staff to start us. The first is on the number of seats. So I can't find 17 anywhere as an option. I see 16 on the draft conditions, and I saw 18 in the proposal, and the calculation somewhere was 16.9.
99999.
So what is staff's recommendation on this? What actually is supported by the parking?
The applicant's supplemental information, which was included in your staff report, contains the explanation that the calculation was 16.999, and they were requesting 17 seats. Unfortunately, for the parking calculations, our town code looks at the property as a whole and calculates the required parking for all of the uses on the single property. At this time, 17 seats would put the property over the required parking, and so 16 seats is recommended by staff.
And my second question is, I can't quickly find where we talk about the hours outside. I found hours of operation, but I'm not finding quickly the sentence that refers to what time the outdoor seating closes.
It is on page 4 of your staff report, and it's under the modified conditions of approval.
Under 12 at the very bottom.
Ah, okay.
10. Okay.
Got it. Thank you. So are there other questions of staff?
I'm
You want me
going to
go
find
on?
out.
Okay.
Vice Mayor.
This is more for the chief. With regards to the physical separation that you discussed earlier and the spirit of the law and the letter of the law, would self-closing gates satisfy what you're after on both sides?
Pardon me. I think it's a design issue that can be well managed. The offline conversations I had with the manager and Ms. Savage were that if you're going to have any opening, maybe have one instead of two, and people can. It's a short distance to go around one direction or the other, and I think people can find their way in. If there's a problem. And again, I'm not saying this because I think there will be, but I am making these recommendations with the eye that the rules run with the land and there could be another operator at some point in the future. The ability to change that either by bringing it back or creating a condition which allows us to change it might be considered. But we could manage an opening on that patio. I would recommend it be one instead of two.
So if it was conditioned, the final design to the satisfaction of CDD and the police chief, you're okay with that?
Yes, and to the specific question about the gate would add a level of signal or intention that I think would be helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilman Leonardis.
I was just noticing on the desk item, well, this is for Jennifer. On the desk item, it shows that Enoteca is required to serve food with their beer and wine.
They're required to have food available, but their customers are not required to have food with the consumption of alcoholic beverages, but it should be there should the customers choose to have it.
Thank you.
All right. Before we ask for a motion, I'm going to recommend that we consider working with staff and the applicant regarding the exterior patio enclosure. I think we can work something out there. If we're going to look for a compromise in some way, I think that the compromise should include a closure on the Dolce side, and when we do that, I think it would be very important that we take a look at the visual aesthetics of what we're proposing out there. I'm not inclined for a rail barrier that basically serves as a wall. I think something that's similar to what you're proposing in your architecture issues would be more appropriate for that area. What we said in our general plan is we want to encourage outdoor dining, and I don't want anything to discourage. So I think we're kind of talking about a conflict of values, and we want to try to achieve all the values. And so some work with staff, I'm sure, would allow us to accomplish that. That's my only comment now. And is there anyone on council who'd like to make a motion or further comment? Councilwoman McNutt.
Thank you, Mayor. I might be prepared to make a motion, but I would like to have council discuss the issue of the food service and whether it should be just food service available or food service required, and also as it currently stands in the draft conditions, it's available indoors but required outdoors. So where do we want to go with this? I kind of entered tonight, to be candid, thinking we must say required because that we have been so adamant with all the other restaurants. But in fact, we do have a similar business where we had it as available. And as I listened to the discussion of how this particular business would be used, I can see, maybe some leeway on that. So I would like other opinions.
All right, Vice Mayor.
Thank you for posing the question. I'm of the thinking, at least at the moment, that I would prefer to see food service required on the patio, available on the inside. Given their business plan and what I would think would be some of the uses of this type of a business where you may have dinner down the street and want a quieter environment to continue your conversation, to require food service on the inside, I think defeats some of the purpose. So, but the patio is a little different issue, and I think it's reasonable to require food service out there. And you didn't bring it up in this question, but I would want to address the hours issue as well, both of the patio and of the establishment as a whole. I didn't hear a compelling reason to deviate from the alcoholic beverage policy, so I would tend to want to go to those hours initially. It cuts you an hour, I understand that, but we have to find some pretty extenuating circumstances to deviate from those, and I just didn't hear that right now. And as far as the patio, they've got it as ending at 10 p.m. when we just, in the previous application, have it as 9. I guess the question I would ask staff is, do we have any consistency on other patios, for example, across the street at Forbes or James Randall or any of those?
Outdoor patio seating does vary. Planning staff and the police department did meet after the Pedro's application came before council and spoke specifically about both Pedro's and this application, SB 17, and spoke about their patio hours and the particular use and how that relates to the patio hours. And from staff's perspective, we're comfortable with the 10 p.m. closure time for SB 17, the wine proposal before you.
Okay, then I'm comfortable with that as well. Thank you.
Any comments?
I just want to say I agree with everything Steve said, and Pedro's came in asking for 9 o'clock closure on the patio. These guys are asking for 10 o'clock, so I don't see any harm with that.
All right, my position is that I think we're on a roll on this outdoor patio thing, and the fact that we expect food service with alcohol in the outdoor patios. And I think that I would see that as appropriate in this case as well, particularly since it's been part of the dialogue that's occurred with the applicants. I would also respect their time that they've indicated for us. I think that we have sufficient evidence that we can make adjustments on the outside hour because of the specific use. And this specific use is somewhat unique. We know that it's not a restaurant. We know that it's not a standalone bar. It is a wine bar with a significant retail component. And with that in mind, I would have no problem extending the hours to those that they request. I do think that what happens is that businesses do not stay open beyond their time, and that allows then some flexibility internally. But it also, I heard from members of our public tonight that there may be some occasions when a later time would be appropriate, and I'm willing to let us go in that direction at their request, knowing full well that it's the type of operation that they're proposing. So I would have no problem with that, but I do believe that from the point of view of service of food and the time in the patio, it's the 10 o'clock proposal, and it is food with alcohol.
Mayor, could I ask staff to clarify, since all these numbers are running through my head right now, alcohol policy dictates which hours on which days for comparison to what they're proposing?
The alcoholic beverage policy says that no establishment shall serve alcoholic beverages past 11 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and past 1 a.m. on Fridays, Saturdays, holidays, and evenings before holidays.
So much for midnight.
So much for midnight.
Yeah.
Okay, so, do you want me to start?
The
through
manager would
these?
like to make a comment.
Just one clarification, since we spent a lot of time talking about the patio. I believe the language that's in both the staff report and the proposed condition about outdoor seating separation or other means that manage public safety and welfare concerns will take the direction from the discussion to look at having one side open with some sort of passable barrier, and we'll work with the applicant to make that happen. And I think the language is fine that you have with the direction given, so it's one less change.
Okay.
So we don't need to take out the word completely, out of completely enclosed?
It's or other means, plus completely enclosed, a passable barrier would enclose the patio. It just is passable.
All right.
Okay, so before I make this motion, I just wanted to say a couple of general comments. One reason that we spend so much time on the details on these conditional use permits as they come forward is, as much as we enjoy hearing about the business plans of the current applicant, whether it's SB 17 or our previous item, Pedro's, the fact is the CUP runs with the land, and therefore we have to be concerned about, should they decide to sell the business the day after they get the CUP, what's kind of the worst possible case of a business that could go in under what we are allowing. So, you know, it's great to know, for example, the commitment to the mountain wines, but, you know, businesses could change. I mean, they might change their mind later, and we would have no control of that, and that's fine. So that's why we're always looking at the hours and all of those details to make sure that the land use decision is not setting us up for a future business that would impact the community. One thing I really like about this business is that it is locally owned, operated, independent business, and I think it will add a great deal to that unique charm of downtown Los Gatos. We work so hard to have those independent businesses with just a smattering of the national brands, but really the asset that we have in our downtown are those unique businesses that have been around for 40 years or will soon be joining us. So I think that's a big benefit to moving ahead on this proposal. So we have some changes. I don't know if we need to go through the changes one by one, Mayor. They're not as extensive as they were.
Why don't you just make the motion and be inclusive at that point?
Okay, and I personally would still prefer to move Friday and Saturday back to midnight, but I don't think I have support on that, and so I'll just leave that one. So I will make the motion to approve CUP U-10-020 and ANS application S-11-03 with changes that I'm going to specify in a minute, and to adopt the resolution approving exterior modifications and operation of a retail wine shop and wine bar. And the changes would be on the CUP for use, changes number 9 and 14 per the staff report. And actually, that may be all in that one since.
Do you want to specify what those were, even though you're saying for the staff report, just for our purposes of our
Sure.
of our
Number
audience?
9 is actually, I think all of the ones that are, now that we've changed our discussions. So the staff report changes, and these actually came from the Planning Commission, 6, 9, 13, since we're not changing the hours, and 14. Do you want me to say what they are? Outdoor seating separation, outdoor furniture, hours of operation, deliveries.
Okay.
And apparently 12 is going to be per the staff report also. We don't seem to be changing either the service, oh, no, we are changing the, I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. So on 12, availability of food versus mandatory food, I'm still not sure where we all are on that, but I'll start right now with just saying as specified in the staff report, so giving them that flexibility. and see where we go.
Nachos are in there too, you realize?
And nachos are in there too, but there's a different kind of nachos.
All right. Yes.
If I can ask a question on hours of operation number 13, did you want to include Mondays as being an available day?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Are you complete then?
Possibly.
Then I will second the motion.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Discussion or clarification?
So we're,
Councilmember Leonardis.
excuse me. So that means we'll be moving forward with Wednesday and Thursday till 1 a.m. or we're going with the ABC policy? Thank you.
To clarify for staff's benefit, on page 3 of the staff report, I believe the councilwoman and Vice Mayor Seconder were referencing hours of operations as recommended by the PC, which would be 11 to 9 for Sunday through Wednesday, 11 to 11 for Thursday, and 11 to 1 for Friday, Saturday, holidays, and evenings before holidays. Is that?
Okay, so we need to get that clarified because Councilmember Leonardis asked a question. I don't know if that was actually clear for the maker of the motion.
His question was clear.
Yes.
My answer wasn't.
I was going with what is in the staff report, so if we want to modify that, then we would need to do that, which is different than what's in their proposal.
Correct.
And is different also in what's in the alcohol policy. So we
The
have lots of
staff
different numbers.
And the staff report reflected on page 3 is actually as recommended by the Planning Commission for hours. So the hours of operation would be 11 to 9 with the modification made by the mayor, including Monday for Sunday through Wednesday at 11 to 9, 11 to 11 for Thursday, and 11 to 1 for Friday, Saturday, holidays, and evenings before holidays. That's how when you take the strikeouts and add-ins from the PC, it reads.
So the only, excuse me, Mayor, the only difference between what they have requested and what's in there is on just Wednesday. They requested till midnight on Wednesday. Is that correct? No.
Yes.
Is that the only change? Did I get that right?
So they requested till midnight on Wednesday and Thursday. So the difference would be on Wednesday, they would close at 9, and on Thursday, they would close at 11. And that's just as recommended in the Planning Commission condition. You can change that to reflect Wednesday and Thursday till 11, and then Friday and Saturday until 1.
I would like to get a response from the applicant. I'll reopen the hearing, and you can make this real simple for us.
I think we're okay with what is recommended in
the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Yeah, in the commission there.
All right, thank you for that. Closing the hearing again. Maker of the motion, anything else you need to say to us? Okay. Is this motion clear to all members of council? Because I could ask someone else to repeat it.
We have one other question.
Yes, Mr. Manager.
And I did want to confirm that on the inclusion of 12, that's food services required for the outdoor seating, and the outdoor patio would cease at 10, and those were included in the motion.
Okay. All right. Is there any other point of clarification that anyone needs? I think the main issue was the hours of operation. Everything else kind of fell together. So one more time on the hours of operation, very simply. Okay, start with like Sunday, and then just move through the week, okay?
The motion was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday until 9 p.m., Thursday until 11, Friday and Saturday until 1.
Okay. Okay? All right, seeing no more, and we do have a second on that from the Vice Mayor, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of the motion indicate aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes 4-0 with one individual absent. Congratulations. Okay. Now, I just want to make something clear. This included the the issue of the resolution for the exterior modifications. Okay. So the whole package in one motion, you got it. By my reading, that concludes our